picture. Now with AI in picture, we can definitely create more intelligent automation. But having said that, still it cannot replace the task that human brain can do. So RPA is definitely not about human replacement. We can make it as intelligent as possible by training and including a lot many components with it. And RPA is not about just another cost saving method. There are a lot many other implications of RPA as well. To name few, it performs the task at a much faster rate than a human could do. It reduces the error rate. It increases the accuracy and efficiency with which the program actually does the job. The cost saving method though follows one of the implications of RPA, but RPA is just not about saving the cost. It's also about reducing the error rates. It is also about completing the task, meeting the SLA and the deadlines. It is also about maintaining the accuracy and efficiency with which a job can be done. On a broader scale, though, we keep in mind that whenever we implement RPA, we implement keeping it in mind that we want to achieve the maximum output out of it, or maximum ROI, which is return on investment, that we can get implementing RPA. But that's not the only thing that we keep in mind while implementing RPA. So now what can software robot do? So there are n number of things that software robot can do, but to name it few and to discuss, the software robot can log into any application. So in our day-to-day activities, we do log into a lot of ERP applications, banking sites, CRM applications, or even our social media accounts. So when we log in, entering different details, all that can be achieved using RPA. So that thing can be automated. And not just the logging into application, anything which is browser related. So it's just an example of it, that using browser, we actually log into an application, but it's not restricted just to logging into, whereas anything that we do even after logging in can also be automated. Then extract contents from documents, PDF, emails, and form. We do read documents, PDF, we do read emails, a lot of emails in our routine tasks, fill in the forms. And for obviously filling in the forms, we'll have to first read the label that what we are actually entering. Then we do read in a lot of PDFs. It could be in the form of invoices. It could be in the form of receipts. So we do read it, we extract information from it so that we can later process it. So extracting all those contents so that it can later be utilized in some way or the other is also an application of RPA. Then moving files and folders, which is actually organizing a particular SharePoint to drive, or cleaning it up on a quarterly basis or on an yearly basis, can be done using software robots. Then opening the emails and attachments, or even downloading it and saving it somewhere, or sending the attachments here and there, all that can be automated using RPA. Scraping the data from the web. So when I say scrape, there are a lot many times when we open a website or a form and we read in data from there, so that later we could, feed it to some other source or could share it with some other person. So that is also one of the applications of RPA and can be done easily using StudioX. Then making calculations. So we can obviously use calculator for that as well, but there are a lot many complex calculations that cannot be done using calculators. We utilize Excel for it, or there are a lot many times when we actually utilize some other application to perform a process specific calculations. So all those steps that we do in there to calculate something, to conclude something at the end, can be done using RPA. Then reading and writing to databases. So to store a large amount of data, to actually process it and analyze it, or to portray it using dashboards. So for that, we use database, and to actually achieve that so that we can build in dashboard, we can utilize and consume all those data for reporting purpose. We have databases wherein we store, and then we can utilize RPA to perform all those tasks wherein we can pull up some data, we can aggregate those data, and then we can show them into different dashboards. So to sum it all up, these are few of the important and very common applications that we do in our routine task and can be done using RPA. Moving further. So now what are the benefits of RPA? Now there are n number of benefits. Increased execution speed. So as we already discussed, with implication of RPA, the task that we want to do could be achieved at a much greater speed. It's as simple as the time that we try to do a particular task and the time actually a machine tries to do a particular task. There's a lot of variation in that time. So RPA actually fulfills that it increases the execution speed. Enhanced accuracy. So suppose there is a task that we are doing and we kept doing the same task say for 5 years, there would definitely come a time where we would make a small mistake because to err is human. Whereas if the machine keeps doing the same job for 50 years, it will never make that mistake. So that's the difference. So RPA will definitely bring in enhanced accuracy because now in place of you, a machine would be doing the task. Improved regulatory compliance. So compliance operation can be improved as RPA is capable to pull and aggregate data from multiple sources. As we just saw that it can read and write to databases easily. So when it can pull and aggregate data from multiple sources, that actually enhances the efficiency of reporting. As because of the speed with which the RPA or the software program does the job, it actually reduces the time spent in collecting or compiling the large amount of data. Then reduce cost of process execution. Now, because it performs the task at a very fast execution speed, definitely the cost of processing that particular execution would decrease as time taken is less. Then easier scaling. So RP actually does not require a very huge infrastructure to begin with. It can actually act as a top player on your already existing infrastructure and you're good to go. It does not require a lot of hardware software requirements for you to start off RPA. And so the scaling of any particular process is very easy in RPA. So today you have one robot processing a particular task. Tomorrow you want to have 10 robots processing the same task. It can be done very easily. So that is another very big benefit of RPA, that it is very easy to scale. Now, what are the processes that are best suited for automation? So this is a very key thing, that you cannot just pick up any process and start automating. There should be definitely some checks that you take care of while you're picking up any process for automation. Now, these are the main keys. If anything that is very repetitive, say there's a task that you come daily, you log in and you perform that task. So that should be picked up for processing, for automating, obviously because it requires certain amount of time on a daily basis. And you keep doing that thing the entire year. So that is repetitive, that the nature is that you keep doing it daily or you keep doing it weekly, or if there's any task that you have to do, say once in 15 days. So those such type of tasks can be picked up for automation. Then if it is rule-based, wherein you can actually decide where there is a yes or no, that okay, if this particular thing is present in the application, then you have to mail to this person. If this particular thing is not present in the application, then you have to inform another person, or anything which is rule-based, wherein you can take a decision on which path you have to tread to. So then you can proceed with RPA. Last but not the least, if the information is structured, wherein you're not getting raw data, the data is processed in some format. You may need to do a little more processing, including database and all that stuff, but it's still in some structured format that it can be used. Now, even if the data is not structured, to give you an example, when we're dealing with invoices, that we have to read the invoice, say extract the total amount or extract the vendor name or extract the bill to information. If the invoice is structured, which is either you're getting a scanned PDF or a non-native PDF. But even now, if you're getting a handwritten invoice in which it is not structured, because if it's handwritten, my writing would be different, the other person's writing would be different. RP can still take care of it, but then that involves intelligent automation for you to actually train RPA. But when we talk about StudioX, which is actually a citizen developer thing, then we take care of that the process is actually repetitive, rule-based and structured, which means there is no unstructured information and no raw data present in. Whereas if you want to move towards intelligent automation, RPA can still achieve it. But since we are concentrating towards citizen developer, so the three rules that we need to keep in mind before picking up any automation is repetitive, rule-based, and structured. Now, use of RPA in business. Now, this is very important because unless the thing that we have developed is not used in the business, there's no use of putting in money and effort into developing it. So here are some of the domains that are mentioned in and wherein we can use RPA. So first is finance. So process to pay, order to cash, and record to report. So these three are, you can say, typical use cases that are used in finance domain and is usually, I think, used by almost all companies, and we can pick up that for automation. Supply chain, which is inventory management, wherein we see a particular product is in our inventory or not, or if it is stocked out, or how many quantity of it is left. Invoice and contract management. So as I told you, wherein you get invoices and you have to read certain information from the invoices. What is the bill amount, who is the vendor, and then, either mail them or enter it into some ERP. And so is the contract management. Then IT, wherein we keep monitoring the server and app, whether it's up and running or not, or whether there's a downtime. If there is a downtime, say we have to send mail to thousands of users to inform that, okay, this particular server would occur a downtime from this to this time so that they can manage their work accordingly. Then routine maintenance and monitoring. So now this falls into repetitive task, wherein you are daily monitoring the maintenance and stuff. Then HR, which is payroll, onboarding, and offboarding. So now see, payroll is also a repetitive task that has to occur every month. Then onboarding and offboarding is that whenever a person is getting onboarded, there are certain formalities that you do, and you do it for all clients, all employees. So that is also kind of repetitive, and it's rule-based. So if onboarding has to be done for an employee, there are certain set steps that the HR has to perform. And if the employee is getting offboarded, then again, there are certain set of steps already defined that the HR has to perform. So it's all very structured and rule-based that, okay, if the person is getting onboarded, these are 10 steps that you have to perform. Then if the person is getting offboarded, these are another 20 steps that you have to perform. So all these use cases that we're just discussing are perfect fit for automation. And these are few of the use cases we are obviously discussing. There are n number of use cases that you can pick up and automate. Then client services, wherein the client has requested you to change the address or change the phone number, or has asked you to schedule appointment. So for all these things, we know that whenever even we call a customer care executive and ask to change our address or to schedule an appointment, we also know that there's a defined set of action that he would do to actually get that thing done. So that is, it is a rule-based thing. And there's all the structure is already defined that after this step has to be performed, and so on and so forth. Then accounting, accounts and report reconciliation. So that is also something predefined. It happens in a very structured way and goes from one team to another to actually get the reconciliation of the entire report done. Then account creation and update. It's like whenever you go to a bank to create your account or to get your passbook updated, you know that there are certain defined set of action that would happen every time, and you know whom to approach for what. So which means this particular task is again very rule-based and it is very structured. Then operations, which is order creation and update or work order request. So these are few of the use cases that we've discussed that can be implemented using RPA of different domains. We can discuss on more use cases of different domains later in the Q&A session. Okay. So now that we've seen what is RPA, what are the uses and applications of RPA in different domains, we will now shift towards what is UIPath. So UIPath is actually a software, and whatever we have discussed, you can actually implement all of those use cases belonging to different domain using UIPath. And so the three main core components of UiPath is Studio, Orchestrator, and Robot. So Studio is actually the canvas wherein you design the automation workflows visually. And the main benefit is that you need not to have a lot of coding background to actually achieve it. It is a low code to no code thing. when I say low code, which means we would talk about Studio, and when I say no code, which is what we concentrating towards later in the session, that is StudioX. So Studio is a low code thing, whereas StudioX is a no code thing. And they both are the canvas wherein we can actually design our automation workflows visually. And everything happens with just drag and drop of activities. So it is pretty simple to develop and then deploy a process and see it in action. Then once we deploy, so we have developed our particular process and automation in Studio. Now, when we deploy it so that we can actually run it, so where do we deploy it? So we deploy it in Orchestrator. So Orchestrator is like a web interface using which we can control, manage, and monitor our robots. And now that the robot term has come, so robot is actually used to execute the process or the automation that we have created using Studio. And Orchestrator is used to manage all those robots. So we develop our automation on Studio. Robot actually executes our automation. And the connecting dot between these two is Orchestrator, which is used to manage the robots. Because we can develop multiple processes in Studio, and we can have multiple robots running our automation. But how to manage all those processes and all those robots is what Orchestrator does. So what are citizen developers? Now that we would be concentrating and going towards StudioX and citizen developer. So before that, we need to know that who are citizen developers and what do they actually do and what all does it take to become a citizen developer. So first of all, if I talk about RP developer, before we go on to covering what are citizen developers. So any person that uses actually UiPath or say any automation platform to develop and deploy such automation solutions would be considered as RP developers. And when we say citizen developers, so as I told you that UiPath also offers a no-code thing, which is StudioX, which does not require you to have any programming background knowledge. So citizen developers are the non-technical person, like who do not have a programming background. So, and they learn how to automate and they want to use their skill to create simple automation for themselves or even for their department. So in order to make more time for high value work, so that any repetitive task that they do, they'll put a robot to work onto it and they can utilize themselves for more productive tasks, which a robot cannot do. So those are who are citizen developers, like they utilize StudioX to develop automation for themselves or for their department. And to complete that repetitive task, now they put on a robot to work. And what can citizen developers do? So they learn how to build and run robots to make their work life better. They automate the everyday work they do. So now say if you have 10 tasks that you do on a daily basis and they all are repetitive and rule based. So instead of you now performing the task, you can make the robot do that task. You can learn about products that improve your automation experience. So automation assistant, that is also, you can say, an application, Windows-based application that you get. And that using that, you can actually run your automations. So the same thing that Orchestrator does, Orchestrator is actually a web interface using which you can run your processes. Similarly, there's also a window-based thing named as Assistant, using which also you can run your processes. So any process that you develop in UiPath StudioX, which is the canvas for designing the automation, if you want to actually run it, you can run it using UiPath Assistant. Though you can also run it from UiPath StudioX itself, but because in the StudioX, your design actually lies and you do not want to play around it so that it gets disturbed. So you can close the StudioX and using Assistant, you can simply run the process as and when required. Then there is UiPath Automation Hub. So that is also a web interface wherein you can post your automation ideas. So whatever idea you get, if you want to share it within your team or within your department, or you want to have a look to another automation idea, so everyone can utilize Automation Hub to post their automation ideas so that you have a greater picture of that if you develop this particular automation, say X automation, then how many people can actually utilize it. So to look at a bigger picture, you would not be saving only your time. Instead, you would be saving 20 other people time. Then you can take part in knowledge sharing session and groundbreaking discussion that keeps on happening in UiPath community event. So you can subscribe to the community event and you'll get to know about all such session that keeps on happening. Now this is what StudioX actually looks like. So you can go to platform cloud.uipath.com, and on your right hand side, you'll get an option to download UiPath Studio /StudioX. Once you click on that, a MSI file will get downloaded and you can install it. So once you install it, you'll get an option that whether you want to have Studio or you want to have StudioX. So you can select StudioX from it, and then this screen would open. So this is what StudioX homepage looks like. So I've given you the steps on how you can install it, but the steps are also mentioned in the later slide. Okay, so let me just walk you through. So you can sign up for UiPath Automation Cloud account using your business email ID or even your personal email ID. And then on the right-hand side over here, you'll get an option to download UiPath Studio. So once you download it, you can run the installer and then you can choose the StudioX profile. So this is the link. I can send in the link in the chat box later, and you can go through that link and it will walk you through the entire step using which you'll be able to download and install StudioX. And this is how the homepage looks like. This is the design canvas that I was talking about, using which you can actually build your automation. So now what are StudioX main features? So it's fully functional project template for a quick start, which means there are a lot of built-in templates already given in here. So suppose if you want to compare a Word template or complete a Word template from Excel and email, which means you want to read certain information from Excel and you want to read certain information from email, and combining all those two sources, you want to enter the information onto your Word file. Or you want to create a PowerPoint presentation by reading some data from the web. You want to create rich HTML email. You want to download some file from some website. You want to save the Outlook attachment. So these are some set of actions that I'm talking about. You don't have to actually build it. The template is already in there. You'll have to just customize it. So that is a very added benefit of it, that you need not to write the code from scratch. These are built-in fully functional template for your quick start. So if you want to, just check it out how it looks, you can pick up any template and customize it a bit, and you're good to go with your first robot in action. Then simple scheduling of runs without reopening StudioX by using UiPath Assistant. So as I told you previously, that StudioX is wherein you design the code. Now suppose you do not want to every time open StudioX to run it, because it's like that, why would you open your code to run it? So instead of that, if you want to run your automation, you need not to open StudioX. UiPath Assistant is there. So it's like a small window pop-up that would come on your screen, and you can simply run whatever automation you want to run to. You'll simply get a run option. It's a very user-friendly interface. So you can run it from there, or you can even stop any process that is already running. And even if there is any error while you're trying to run your process, you can even see the error there. So you need not to have the whole StudioX open on your screen to run a small automation. You can do that using UiPath Assistant. Then native integration to Microsoft Office, Microsoft Outlook, Outlook 365, and Gmail, plus special SAP support. So now these are few of the applications that we commonly use in our routine task. So the StudioX has built-in integration, and very user-friendly activities are provided for you to complete your task with all of these applications. So you'll have named activities, and you can simply drag and drop those activities and get your task done. We would see that later in the session, how everything looks like actually in the StudioX. Then scenarios that show you best practices for automating common actions. So using template, you can actually see that what are the best practices that are being followed to actually get that thing into action. So you can take the templates that are already there as a reference of what are few of the best practices that you should incorporate in your other processes. Then a project notebook that lets you apply your Excel knowledge to automation. So now with every StudioX solution or automation that you built in, by default, a project notebook is always there. And you can utilize that project notebook to manipulate the date and time. If you want to, say you want to add 3 days to today's date, or you want to you want to get to know that what day would it be 10 days from now, or you want to play around text, you want to play around string, you want to play around numbers. So all of this can be achieved using project notebook. An intuitive error handling, so you can skip. So if there is any step that has thrown error and you want to just skip that particular step so that you can move further with your other steps, so you can skip it. If you want to retry a particular step because it has thrown error, the option is available. If you want to stop your robot because it has got stuck at some particular position, you can do that as well. So it has a very good intuitive error handling. So if in case any error has occurred, you can skip it, you can retry it, you can stop it. And the error message that you get in whenever any error occurs is very descriptive. It will tell you everything that in which particular process or at which particular step the error has occurred, why the error has occurred, which means like which activity has thrown the error. And it will also give you a probable reason that maybe the error has occurred due to this. So the error message that you get, it is also very descriptive. Even if you go through that error message once, you would be able to relate that which particular part actually has thrown error. I'll hand it over to Lovely, who would walk you through the StudioX and practical implementation of the same. Over to you, Lovely.
Thanks, Anmol. So I hope everybody has got the insights on RPA and installation of StudioX. So let's dive into the topics, the core topics that will help you to create a robot and customize the templates which Anmol has discussed so far. Let me know if my screen is visible to everyone.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, great. So in everyday task, we interact with multiple applications, be it a browser or an SAP application or an Excel. So the first topic is user interface automation, where a bot can interact with the user interface applications because each application will have the visual elements, the screen, pages, and perform tasks on it. So UI automation is a process where bot can automate the steps in terms of providing click on the click or giving inputs through the keyboard. So this is the UI element. It's an example of employee registration form, and consider a bot has to handle with the data and fill in this registration form. So this bot can interact with these first name fields or the click drop down list, which is state, and it can interact with these elements. And this is type of user interface automations. Now, getting familiar with the StudioX. In StudioX, there are a couple of activities that can help you perform these user interface automations, and it can be segregated in terms of input and output. So if you're trying to pass some value into an application, or if you're trying to pass any kind of activities, let's say click, we are submitting something into an application. So those type of scenarios comes under the input section. However, if we have to retrieve some information from an application, we are getting something from it, then it considered in an output scenario. So there are activities that supports input like click, type into, select item, check, uncheck of the boxes. Similarly for the output, get text, get URL, extracting the tabular data could be the scenarios that probably will come across while automation. So this is the activity panel. And in this activity panel, which is available in the StudioX canvas, you will see these are the application cards. So if you're working with the user interface automation, you have to go with the app web application cards. Similarly, choose depending on the applications which you're automating, you can choose and select that particular application card, and it will list out all the supporting activities or functionalities which you can build using the bot. To start with it, in the user interface automation, we first drag with resources. So resources means we first have to ensure that bot connect to that particular application. If it's a browser, the bot has to first ensure that it opens the particular browser. And how to do that? So using the resource, under the resource tab, the bot can make use of this use application browser activity to connect with that application. So if it's a, let's say, desktop application, then same activity can be used. And whatever the actions needs to be performed in that particular application, for that, we can refer the actions tab, where depending on the functionalities, we can drag and drop and complete the automation. Okay, so now we will build our first bot using this web automation. So Anmol will share the link where you will have the documentations about the process in detail, which will cover the steps, what we are automating now. So if you have already installed UiPath StudioX, you can follow along with me and complete the steps, and let's build our first bot in StudioX. So the demo, so the use case is find your unicorn name. Okay. Now, since I talked about interacting with an application, so here in this particular use case, we are going to interact with a browser. So before automating in the browser, we have to ensure we follow the prerequisites. And in order to do that, we have to install the browser extension in the StudioX. So let me go back to the StudioX. So this is the StudioX. And if you go to the tools section, there will be available plugin as well as UiPath extensions. So if you're working with the Chrome, you can just click on the install on this particular Chrome button, and then it will enable that extension in the Chrome browser. So similarly, for the Edge or the Firefox, you could do the same thing. So I have already installed this particular extension. So you can just make a click on this button, and then there will be a pop-up on the right-hand side, which will give you an option to enable that extension. So you click on that, and once it is clicked, you can see that extension is enabled in the name of UiPath Web Automation. Okay, so this is the way of installing the UiPath extension for the Chrome. Similarly, you can follow for the other browser. Now, let's start with our process. So as soon as you open the UiPath Studio X, then you will see this particular screen where on the left-hand side, you will have an options to open the project, open the existing project. If you want to download the templates, you can go for the template section. So this is the different version. So that's why you could see that it's not available. So it's available in a different way. Okay. Now, to start our first project, we have to go with a blank task. Now, in StudioX, we always pick a use case, which is a task-based automation. It cannot be end-to-end entire process, but we pick the particular short task that can be triggered by the bot. So I click on the blank task, and here in this blank task window, it gives me a option to type in the process name. So I will give the meaningful name for my process. So this time I am giving the same use case name, find your unicorn name. Okay. Similarly, you can map the particular location where the files of your project will get stored. And then you can add the description, an informative description for your project, just to understand and classify the projects. Okay. And then I click on create. It will download all the dependencies, the packages which is required to develop in the StudioX. It will create the workspace for you, add all the dependencies so that you can utilize those application cards and activities for your automation purpose. Okay, so now my workspace is created and we have activity section where we will drag and drop the activities. Main area where we will drag and drop the activity and proceed with our automation. On the right hand side, you will see the different tab. So to start with it, we will see with the properties. So whichever the activities which you will pick will have certain properties that we have to customize. So if you're working with the template, each activity which is available in this template will have certain properties that you will have to customize. So to not confuse with, let's start with a basic step, how to interact with the browser. Okay, so first, so let me show you the manual process. So I have opened my browser and this is the URL for find unicorn name. My bot has to open this and it has to type in a name. Okay, it has to select the month and then click on this particular button. So we are submitting on this particular web page. Once I have clicked on the get unicorn name, it will fetch me. So it will show me the unicorn name and the bot has to pick it and display it in a message box. So this is the small use case. You can modify for your practice, like say taking the input from an user, or once we talk about Excel automation, then you can take the inputs from that Excel, iterate. So there could be multiple scenarios. So to start with, let's take this one. Now, first, we have to pick an activity from resources that will allow the bot to connect to that particular application. Now, I have dragged this use application. It says indicate application to automate. So I will ensure that my application window is open. Okay. And then I click on indicate application. So now you see green color. It is because bot is able to understand the particular application as we have already installed the extension. If we would have not installed, it would be in the orange color. It means that bot is not able to communicate to this particular application or the browser. So as of now, it's able to understand. And once it's able to understand it, it will capture the certain informations from that application. Whether if it is a browser, it will capture the URL. If it is a desktop application, it is going to capture the window name, something like that, and all the installer. So depending on the application, it is going to capture the information. Okay. Now, my bot is able to open the browser and I have provided the URL. The next step, to interact with the field where we have to give our name. So to give that, we will be typing it, right? So let's see if there is activity. So type into is an activity. And you can see it comes under the app and web automation. It means we are working with interaction within the web automation itself. So I'll drag the type into activity and place it inside it. So that once bot is able to open the application, it has to type the name. Now, where it has to type, we will first indicate it. So I click on the indicate in Chrome and indicate the particular element. So this is the field where I have to type, even if you will follow the manual process. So you see it's green color. Again, green, it means it is able to understand that particular element. So I will press a left click so that it will take all the attributes. So we know that web application works with HTML attributes. It works with some properties. So bot will understand that particular element. It will take all the attributes that makes that particular element unique. And then it will give you the green color target and blue color as an anchor. So in StudioX, you will see that to make it more friendly and intuitive as well, and error free, of course. So bot also captures the anchor. Okay, it means that it first try to understand what would be the best closest position for that particular element. So if you go with writing a name manually, you will first see your label, right? You will see the label, what is your name, and then you will fill in the corresponding value. So similarly, anchor will work like that. It will first try to understand what would be the closest attribute or closest position of that particular element. Based on that, it will try to find the target element. If you think it is appropriate, then you can click confirm. Also, if you want to add more anchors, let's say in some certain scenario, you are not able to find properly this target element, then you can add the anchors using this add anchor feature. So you can click on the add anchor and indicate any other label or any other element that will help your bot to understand or get that particular element. Okay, so you can add multiple anchors when you are selecting any application. So you have to ensure that particular element is static. So let's say if it changes, this label gets changed, definitely the bot will not able to understand the anchor, right? So you have to ensure you choose the particular element appropriately. And once it is done, you click on confirm. Okay, and once it is done, you can see the values which has been selected while selecting that particular element will be captured here. So you need not worry. Since we say that StudioX is a no code platform, you need not worry. It will capture the appropriate attributes and it will try to indicate that particular element. Now, to type the value. So if you click on the plus, here we do not have a concept of variable. We did not vary what type of data it is going to handle or what type of data it has to fill in. What we can give is go to the text as of now. And again, it's a free text. You need not worry about any syntax. Since it's a no-code platform, you can just freely type in what value you want to provide or feed into that particular application. So I'll give in my name as a text and then click on save. This way, you can pass the value. Then we have to select the item. Again, I'll go with the select. See if there is something that can help me to interact with that element. Select item. So again, I'll drag and drop, place it after type into. I'll drag and drop again. Let me. Okay. Now I indicate in Chrome again. So click on the indicate in Chrome and I will indicate the particular element to the bot. Let it automatically gap some information, be it anchor or target. Now this looks good. I click on confirm. What value it has to pick? Now select item. So again, right now I'm just hard coding it. So it will automatically throw the values which is available in that particular drop down box. So let me choose the month and here it is. After that, I have to click on the submit, which is the get unicorn name. So I'll drag the click activity, place it after the select item. Again, same thing, click on the indicate in. So right now it is not available to me because since we have already manually provided the value, we have this. So I'll right now hit escape and make sure that particular scenario, what I'm trying to automate is available. So I'll refresh it. And now I'll provide the name, choose the month so that this particular click button, so this particular button gets enabled. And now I will try to indicate it again. So I click on the indicate and let the bot pick that attributes and then click on confirm. So this way you can interact with the bot. So once it is done, it has to fetch the name. So now to do that, I will just click on the get unicorn name manually, because this particular type of element should be available before we interact with this particular element. So now we are trying to get information, right? So we are trying to get text from it. So I'll drag the get text activity, place it after click. And now I'll indicate that particular label where it is showing me my unicorn name. So I select over here and then click on confirm. So there is also a possibility that bot do not have any anchor automatically. So if it is still it is not available, this is also fine. But you can also add if you find something unique attribute also. So you can add the anchors if it is not automatically found, just to make your solution robust. Okay, so click on confirm. Now, once the bot get that particular text, we have to store it. So right now we are not interacting with an Excel. We are just storing it. So we will save it for our later use. Just gave a name to it. Let's keep our output. Okay. We are saving this value for the later use. So we are just giving a name to it so that we understand which value we are saving it. Okay. Now we will drag the message box because we have to display that particular unicorn name. Place it after the get text activity. And here I will supply the value which we have saved. So it is going to the used value section and choose the output. This is it. So here we interacted with an application, feed in some input and get the output and displaying it using the message box. So let me save it and I make sure that I have closed this particular application just so that we do not have duplicate windows. I click on the run. And here it is. So this way you can automate any type of user interface application, be it browser or be it a desktop window. Click OK, since this is a message box which gives a pop-up with an OK button. So here it is. Any questions so far? Any doubts? Okay. So here we have built our first bot and we also had our first unicorn name too. Now this was the first approach to develop any kind of UI based automation. Now in StudioX, we also have a web app recorder feature. It's like an automator tool that automatically captures the certain steps in this user interface application. Now there is a limitation. When I say that it automatically captures certain steps, it doesn't mean that it will work with Excel, Outlook, Word, or any file or folders automation. It is just going to capture some of the activities that is supported in the app web recorder. So now I will build another use case using this app web. So you can see how easy it is and convenient to develop a bot within a seconds using this app web feature. Also, if you're not aware which activities you have to or which activities you have to pick for your automation, start with app web feature to automate any simpler steps in the user interface automation. So again, we will be interacting with the browser. So we should have an extension for sure and then proceed with it. So let me show you the manual steps first. So this is my browser and I have this URL. So what my bot has to do, it has to type in a value, let's say 12. Okay. And it has to uncheck the symbols checkbox. And then this strong password needs to be copied to the clipboard. So using a click button, it can be copied to the clipboard and display this data which has been copied in a message box. So now we are going to do this without using drag and drop of the activities. So I'll quickly go to the home section and click on the blank task. Create a new process for this app web example. Click on create. It will create a workspace for you. Okay. Now to start with it, I am not familiar with activities, resources, actions. I'll directly go and jump into this app web recorded activity. Now first, we have to show which window we are working on. Okay, so I'll just see that green color window, it has highlighted inside the browser. I'll just select. Once I selected it, it will capture the activities. Now, after this, I see that it has also recorded the click activity. I do not need it, right? We just have to type in now. So I'll delete it so I can do the customization accordingly. Now the next step is I have to type in here. So I click on the I click on this particular field. It will try to understand that element, whether it is a click or a field. So it will show up some suggestions. So you can see that it gives an option to type some value. So it understood that it is a text field. I can choose the appropriate options, plain text, empty field. So every time when bot has to type in, it would be emptied. It will clear the contents and then it will type in the fresh values. So now I'll click on the confirm. My system is hanged, just 1 minute. Okay, I can see it is not, let me refresh it. Okay, let me do it again. I click over here, it understands that. I press the type the number and click confirm. Okay. Now, after that, I have to uncheck it. Since it is already checked, what I'll do is I'll press function F2. So what it will do, it will give me some 5 seconds timer so that you can set up that particular scenario manually and then perform or capture the elements. Okay. So similarly, if you work with different multiple windows, you can just press function F2 to make sure that certain application where you have to capture element is available. Okay, now I will select that particular checkbox. It has captured that particular element. It has understood what type of operations we are doing. Now we have to click on this click to copy to clipboard button. So I will select, just put a press left click and it will perform that particular activity. It will understand what type of element it is and get that. So now you can see that in the recorded steps, we have an activity called use browser Chrome. So if you recall it from our previous exercise, we had the same activity. Inside it, we have an activity now to type in the value, which is password length. Then it will uncheck the checkbox symbols, and then it has to click the copy to clipboard. So once it is done, then we have to display the copied data into a message box. So far it is done. We have interacted with all the types of elements and the browser. So we are done. So we will just save it and return to our StudioX. Okay, and you can see that automatically all the scriptings has been created. It has got all the activities which we have performed so far. Now, after this click, we have to display the copied data into a message box. So again, I'll drag the message box here after this click. So far, we are not storing anywhere. We are just pasting it from the clipboard. So click to clipboard functionality basically did the Control C, and now we are doing it, just pasting the content here. That's it. So this is the another approach to automate any kind of web application automation or the desktop applications. So let me just save it, ensure that it is closed and run it. So you can perform an activity like getting an information, you can click on that element, you can type into that element. These type of activities can be performed. So here you can see that I developed this particular bot within a seconds. Okay. Any questions? No? So hope you okay. So now to practice that, I have just another scenario where a bot has to interact with a desktop application. So Anmol will share the link in the chat window and you can just see the procedure. Maybe I can just explain quickly. So this is the desktop application which you have to install in, and bot has to feed in the value into this text field, click on the accept and get that transaction number. And you can display that transaction number in a message box. So this is a small exercise which you can do and practice in StudioX. Okay. Yeah. So the next topic which I'll cover is word automation. Now, let me tell you that whenever we work with any type of business processes, we definitely interact with the word templates. We create a templates that involves for reporting, could be could be a resume formatting, any type of scenarios would come under this word automation. So you just have to ensure that the activities that you're going to perform into a word would be repetitive, it would be a structured, and this way your bot could be helpful for your particular task. So what all can you automate? So it involves the use of word templates, where in the word templates, it could have a text, hyperlinks, image, tables, charts. So in StudioX, there are certain activities that can help you with those type of scenarios, handling with the textual data or the tables or in images. So some of the basic templates would be resumes, letters, brochures, reports. So these type of documents could be used for this word automation. And in fact, if there is a scenario or a requirement where you would like to save that particular word to a PDF, we also have an activity for it. So using that activity, you can save any particular word to the PDF. Okay. So again, same concept. We first ensure that our bot interacts with the target application. Here, the target application would be Word. So we have the use Word file in the resource section, and supporting functionality is available under the actions. So you can add hyperlink to the document. You can add pictures to the document. Similarly, if there is already a data available in a document, you can append, you can add more information to it using the append text activity. If there is a tabular data, you would like to insert it, you can use insert data table in a document. Okay. Similarly, read text, replace picture, replacing the text in a document. So we have also seen that in certain word templates, we have a bookmark. So different types of different bookmarks would be available at different location. So if you already have the bookmark, you can directly set that value for that particular bookmark in the template itself. And again, like I said, you can save the document with another name. You can save it as a PDF as well. So these are the activities which involves for the word automation. Now I have a scenario. So I have a template. Okay, it's a template which has an image, which has a text, and couple of other text, which is in terms of descriptions. So a person has a name, phone, email ID, experience details. So this data is available in a Excel. And I have a template, Word template for a resume. And assume that in a process, I have to just create the resumes based on data available in Excel. So now I'm not going to cover the extensive Excel. I just show you that there is a record in an Excel and bot has to interact with an Excel, take the data, and it has to place it in our Word document. Okay. So this is a scenario. So let me show the template first. So this is our template. Due to the time constraint, I have just added the experience 1 and the education. Similarly, the name, phone, email is available in our Word structure and an image also, and profile details. Now also, let me show you the Excel. So this is an Excel where I have columns and number of, so there is only one record. So what is going to interact with an Excel, capture this information and place it wherever it is required as per our template. Okay. Now, the first thing to, since you are interacting with two applications now, the Word and the Excel, we have to first check whether we have any prerequisites. Okay. So now, since to interact with an Excel, we saw that in our tools section, we had Excel add-in. So in StudioX, to make it more intuitive and to support the no-code platform, we have an Excel add-in where bot tries to interact with an Excel in the intuitive way. It captures certain cell value if required, and it will show while you are transferring the data content from Excel application to another application. So let's see. So I have already installed it. To install, you just have to click on this particular button, Excel add-in, and it will get installed. Now, let's start building the use case. So I will open the UiPath StudioX, go to the home, and first go to the start. Okay. And then click on the blank task. Again, give an appropriate name to it. Let me put resume builder. Click on create. Okay. It will create a workspace. Fine. So we will start with first interacting with, let's say, Excel. So I'll drag the use Excel file, which comes under the resource. I'll give the path where my bot has to read the Excel from resume data. Okay. Now I have to interact with the Word file. So I'll drag in the Word file activity also. Now I will show the particular template. I'll click open and give the appropriate path. So I'm just unchecking the create if not exist because we already have data into it and we just want to create another file. Okay. Now, after this, since it's a very linear process, I will just create, develop it step by step. So using the Word file. Now, first step is we have to replace this name with the name available in an Excel. So we are replacing. To do that, let's see if there is an activity. So it says replace text in a document. Okay. Now the bot has to search for the name. So what I'm going to do is I'll go to the text. I will just provide what it has to search. Okay. And how it has to be replaced. So I'll go with the plus. Now, the data it has to be replaced with is available in our Excel. So I'll choose Excel instead of text and I'll click on the indicate in Excel. So because of we have already installed Excel add-in, it will show up this particular tab, Excel integration, Excel add-in. You just have to select that appropriate cell. So now you might be wondering that what happens if there are multiple records. That you can follow. That this topic will cover it in the next session, which is on the 11th March. As of now, we are working only the single records. So select this particular cell and then click on confirm. It will take that particular cell value, which sheet it is, and then it is going to replace it. If there are more number of occurrences, then you can, and you want to replace all the text in the multiple occurrences, you can select it. Otherwise, you can just deselect it, because I just have to find the first name in the document and replace it with our required name. Now, similarly, we can do it for another. So I'm just doing it for one more. Let's keep it as phone number. And here again, plus text. And then now Excel, indicate in Excel and pick the correct cell, which is the B2, and click on confirm. So it will capture that. Now, if you see the particular structure, it all has a text. So again, we just have to drag the similar activity and replace it with the values available in Excel. Now this is an image, okay? How do you replace the picture? So every picture will have some alt text, okay? It is a reference for that particular picture that is available in our Word document or Word template, I would say. So this is an identifier for a picture in our particular Word format, Word template. So what I'm going to do is, we have already seen the replace text. Now to replace the picture, because it has an option, find the pictures with the alt text. So we have to provide the alt text for that picture which is available in our Word format. I'll give a name to it. Now it has to be replaced with the picture. So I have to give the path of a picture which needs to be replaced with, and I'll choose here. Okay. So this is the flow for working with word automation. Similarly, you can try other activities which is available here. So what I'm going to do is, now I'll close this Excel, close the word structure also. So this is the way we develop in the word automation. So I have already created a bot and I have deployed it in the orchestrator. So I'll just run the bot so that you can also see how we run the bot from our UiPath assistant. So I'll just click on the run button and it will run the same process, what I have showed you. So it will replace the name. Okay, I think I have let me just close it. I did interaction, maybe let me close it. I'll just quickly run again. Actually, I have not changed the format in the structure. Okay. So you can see that all the details got filled in. And now if I show you the assistant, it has run it. So this way you can see that you can build and work with the word automation. Okay. Any questions? So to understand more with this topic, you can also refer Academy, and you can go with our UiPath website where the documentations for each activity is available that can help you to configure those activities and work with that particular activities and scenario. Okay. So now I would request everyone to go to this menti.com, enter this particular code, and there's a chance to win this UiPath swag. So yeah, let's try this quiz. Let's see how much we have learned so far. Was that benefited or not. So let's see. So I'll just stop share once. Meanwhile, you can go to this particular menti.com. Yeah. I'll just stop share for some time. Anmol, meanwhile, can you share your screen for that? Let me.
Yeah, sure. Okay, just a second, Anmol, I'll just share the code with you. Give me a second.
Let me share my screen. Hold on. Yeah.
Okay. So before we start, you can enter the code 73357762 that is visible on top of the screen. We'll wait for 2 minutes so that everyone can browse to menti.com. So there are 3 questions that you'll have to answer. The options would be visible. And as soon as you answer, that also would add marks to it. And at the last, we'll have only one winner who would get the UIPath swag. So try to be accurate as well as fast while you're answering. We'll wait another 30 seconds more so that you can come in. Okay, I think lovely, we can start.
Okay.
So you'll see the first question on your screen. Which activity is used to connect to target application in UI automation? And here are your options. Check app state, open browser, and use application browser. Okay. We move on to the next question. Can we add multiple anchors while capturing UI element? Yes or no? Last 3 seconds. Looks like everyone has answered it correctly. Moving on to the last question for the day. Which option is mandatory while you are replacing picture in Word document? Alt text, bookmark text, or text position? You have last 5 seconds to go. Okay. So now we'll move on to the leaderboard to see who actually has won the UiPath swag. Looks like Michael has won the UiPath swag. Michael, you can ping me your mail ID. Congratulations, Michael. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we have a similar event, which would be the continuation of this particular event, which is StudioX Session 2, in which we would be diving into more of things that we can achieve using StudioX. And we would be talking about Excel automation and email automation. So make sure that you RSVP to that particular event as well. The time would be same. The date would be 11th of March. And you can connect with us over LinkedIn. I would be sharing all the links in the chat window now. I've got Michael's mail ID. Thank you, Michael, for that. Guys, if you have any question related to today's session or in general related to RPA Studio or StudioX, please feel free to ask your queries and we are here to answer it. Or you can even reach out to us over LinkedIn if you want to. So I've also pasted the link so that you can register for the event on 11th of March. You can just click on the link and RSVP for the event. It would be the continuation of this event only. Guys, do you mind turning on your camera so that we can have a picture together? Okay, you cannot unmute. Okay. Now I think everyone would be able to unmute themselves. If you guys want to ask any question, please unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the detailed explanation and all that stuff. I just have one question. For example, let us suppose, can we train a bot in an advanced manner that it can itself build a kind of an application, or a kind of like the RPA is only confined to the automation only?
So the RPA is definitely confined to only automation. But yes, we can actually use advanced features wherein Studio also offers that you can incorporate Python, C#, VB.NET code within itself. There are activities which you can use to utilize them to build a full-fledged course. So yes and no would be the answer. RPA is definitely confined to automation, but since it also offers the capabilities of you to utilize different programming language, and now also it has capabilities of incorporating artificial intelligence with it. So definitely you can utilize it accordingly to build an application or to automate an application both.
Okay, thank you.
Guys, if you have any question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Looks like we do not have any question. Rohit, do you want to add anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much, Lovely and Anmol. I mean, with your permission, I would like to, just extend, some more basic swags to everyone else who has participated in this wonderful session. So, Michael, you will already be receiving the details to claim the swag. I am just mentioning my LinkedIn ID. Please DM me your email ID, and I will then separately reach out to you with some more opportunity to claim a swag. So thank you so much everyone for being wonderful attendees, and much bigger thank you to Anmol and Lovely to spare your time and share your insights and expertise to every participant over here. Yo, that's it from my end. Thank you all.
Thank you guys for joining in. You've been a great
Any
audience.
participation certificates do we get?
Who's this? Sorry, I couldn't hear. Is this Ravi?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We do not have any participation certificate, but please do DM me. I'll have something else for you.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
So I think we're good to close the call. Thank you guys for joining
Thank you.
in.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.